Welcome to the Happy Disruptors podcast. If you're a creative thinker with an unconventional approach to your industry, you just might be a happy disruptor. Join your friends at the Great Outdoors Foundation for honest conversations about tackling critical issues like conservation with an uncritical disposition. If you like to smile and get things done, this is the podcast for you.
Hello, and welcome back to the Happy Disruptors podcast. I'm Katie, and as you may already know, we are on part 3 of a series we're calling Best of 2025. This year, we launched the Happy Disruptors podcast in celebration of our 30th anniversary, and we've had the tremendous privilege of having a wide spectrum of individuals on the podcast to talk about the work that they are doing as a happy disruptor in their particular field. Today's episode is one of my favorites because it brings together common misconceptions and takeaways regarding water quality, conservation, and agriculture. Now, if you're not already familiar with the Great Outdoors Foundation, we find ourselves in this really unique intersection of those 3 issues. We operate largely in the state of Iowa, which is a major agriculture producer. We know that as it stands, Iowa has one of the lowest percentages of publicly owned land. And so in order to make the biggest conservation impact, we need to be partnering with those who are private landowners, and largely those are farmers and producers. So today's episode, we're going to hear from some experts who are working in the field. They'll provide insight on some common misconceptions, and then they'll also share some of their key takeaways for what it means for us engaging in the conservation and agriculture sector. What is one thing, both of you have worked in conservation for, decades. What is one thing that you wish everyone knew about water quality?
I'm going to let you start, John.
That's a solid question, right?
Yeah. Just leaving the door wide open.
Knock that one out of the park,
How
John.
much time do we have?
I'm going to wake up at 2 a.m. and say, I should have said this.
As a person who lays in bed at night thinking about conservation, right? Don't we all do that?
For sure.
Absolutely.
The thing that means the most to me, for people that don't do this every day, is it's a very personal thing. Everything about conservation is the people. And it's just like anything else in your life. Who do you trust? Who do you how do you make things work in your busy lives? People's lives are really busy. And as I work with young conservationists and I try to get them to operate within our programs, I think about, I always say it's the question. And this question is a big deal. And this is the question we have to ask. And can we do it in a safe place where we get real answers? And that question about water quality and about working with cities, homeowners, landowners, farm, anybody, is truly what would it take to get you to be a part of the solution? What would it take to get you to do something, whatever it is, doesn't even matter. What would it take? And if you can ask that question in a truly safe and get people to give you real answers, you take those answers and that's how you develop programs. You don't develop programs and then make people fit into your program. No. We have to ask that question, and then that in today's day will give us how we set up programs. And I'll say that because it works.
Yeah.
It's worked time and time again. And now everything we do is about, can we ask that question and ask enough people? And then boom, we develop conservation. And if we do that, we will double, triple, quadruple our outputs and make a difference.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you see that modeled perfectly. I mean, you didn't go to those landowners and say, this is what we think will work for you. You need to develop all of your conservation practices and come to us and we'll make it work. You turn the entire model on its head and are working backwards from sort of what are those barriers to implementation?
Ask, why did we only install 5 in 6 years? Why? We tried really hard. It wasn't because we weren't trying. We were literally trying.
Yeah.
But everybody was at the same playing field we were. And we finally just went and asked people. We're like, well, why should I do this? And it doesn't benefit, in this case, why should I be taxed on this? Or I can't find a contractor, or it's taking too long. Mm-hmm. And we're like, okay, we need to simplify come up with a new funding structure. We need to find them contract. And that's how we developed the program. We just asked the people who wouldn't work with us before.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the thing for my answer to that question is I think I wish people appreciated how nuanced water quality really is and took the time to be curious about it. I think that within the industry, we are having a lot of great conversations. We're having a lot of momentum. But as you get outside of that circle, there's just a lot of, 140 character soundbite type conversations that really cheapen the conversation and prevent us getting to the real answer. And so I think educating yourself, being curious, right? Like, instead of saying farmers just don't want to do this, like what John did, saying, okay, let me go have coffee with this person and say, why aren't you doing this? Right? Like, I'm curious. And so, being part of the solution, being curious, and having coffee with people to figure out what the barriers are, I think is really important. So just appreciating the nuances, that it isn't just black or white.
Yeah.
I mean, even as simple as what the definition of good water quality is so different depending on the usage, right? And most people don't even understand that. Drinking water quality is completely different than recreation, completely different, to all of those different things for habitat, things like that. And so just appreciating the nuance of it and being curious. What is something that you wish everybody knew about conservation and agriculture?
Yeah, that's a great question, but I think, I wish people could see what I've seen and what I've heard from farmers. I'm privileged in the fact that I've got that access to learn. And again, I've been able to carry the stories forward because they are phenomenal stories and they're very different. But again, I guess that's what keeps me going every single day, is knowing that I can help them, with the role I have here at the bank, tell the story. Hopefully I can do it through sustainability financing products. But yeah, it's that tremendous things that agriculture folks do for food security is national security, and again, I think we are better at it than anybody else in this world, and they are good stewards of the land. If I owned land, I'd put it in the hands of a farmer before anybody in an urban corridor for the most part.
Yeah. Very good.
What do you guys think about the way city people are thinking about the water quality and what we do out on the landscape? What's your take?
I think that there is. I don't think that most people are educated enough to really have an opinion.
Okay.
I think
they might have an opinion.
Well, they for sure have an opinion, but I don't think that people understand how difficult farming is in general, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there was a report, I'm sure you guys know this, there was a report that came out the other day that last year's net income for the average farmer was negative $324. And so
per acre or what?
I don't remember. Do you remember?
I think it was per acre.
I think it was
Per acre.
Could be, yeah.
So when when I now the last 4 years I've been sort of, just ingrained in the world, in the farming world. I don't farm. I'm 2 generations off the farm. And so I'm just have tried to learn everything that I can. And I went and got my MBA at Iowa State in food systems and ag just so I could understand it, right? If I'm going to be dedicating my life to water quality, I better understand this. And I don't think people understand, to our point earlier today that we were talking, this isn't just a farmer decision.
Yeah.
And when you meet farmers, they're not much different than the people that live in my suburb. They're running kids around. They're making sure mom and dad are getting to their appointments.
Yeah.
And at the same time, by the way, you're responsible for the water quality in this whole watershed, and you should stop what you're doing and change everything and learn new ways to do everything. I mean,
And feed the world.
Feed the world.
Low key.
And I live in a conservation neighborhood that has an HOA. So our whole area is, our drainage ditches and everything are all prairie. We live in a prairie, the whole thing. Yeah, nice. It's really nice. But do you know how worked up they get when they're told by the HOA of how to manage their prairie? Can you imagine what they, and so I use.
No purple flowers.
Yeah.
To your point, it takes 60 to 80 decisions to raise a crop every year on every single field. And conservation is going to have, an effect on a lot of those different decisions. So saying, just go do this. It's not that simple. It takes a lot. And by the way, Mother Nature is carrying a big stick in this conversation, and she's going to bat last no matter what decision you make.
Right. So I think it's up to all of us to figure out those carrots in which conservation is part of the business decision. Make conservation pay, and however that looks, and recognize how our food systems contribute to what's going on, and where can we help as consumers influence what we want to see. But quite frankly, we have a 1930s conservation delivery mechanism, and we are farming in 2025. And we must come to terms with that and start to address those situations. And in those areas in which there is regulation, take the Chesapeake Bay, they still have a dead zone. They still have, and so no matter what decision is made, it's gonna have to be multi-pronged approach.
The Cuyahoga River in Ohio no longer lights on fire.
But,
and that was probably the depths of the depths some years ago. But I'm glad you mentioned food systems, because one of the problems with industrial grain production is we don't make a lot of human food out of it. We fill gas tanks. I think most of the corn from my farm probably goes to Lincoln Way. Corn ethanol. And I don't blame anybody for wanting to get 15, 20 cents more per bushel. I get it. Or whatever it is. Sometimes it's more, I'm guessing.
I'm going to pause here and object slightly.
Okay. Can you tell we don't always agree?
This is why we wanted both of you guys on board.
This is important.
It doesn't directly go to food systems. But over half of our corn
indirect, you're right,
goes to feed. A third of the ethanol byproducts go to feed. So we have a massive animal industry in this state too that does go directly to human food. So I think we need to be a little bit careful in the wording there, because corn and soybeans, they've been kind of the focus on what we're talking about here. But those are the biggest components in some of the protein industry. So I would just be cautious in the wording.
And when I discuss it, I do bring that up because I absolutely get it. And
it's easy to point fingers at ethanol. But by the way, ethanol is also a cleaner burning fuel source. So,
that's a whole nother.
That's a different conversation that we're not here for. So,
but by the way, I'm farming the sun with my solar panels, and my electric car does have no emissions. So there's another possibility out there.
Well, we can talk about the entire train of that and production. All the way back to
next
mining
episode.
We should.
No, I was so encouraged by your initial story, Nick, of the conservation practice of no-till came out of necessity. It was an innovation that was born out of necessity. And I think, the conditions and the environment that farmers are up against right now, that is going to be ripe with innovation. And so I'm encouraged. I know that there's a long way to go, but I do think that we're already seeing how the delivery system of conservation is being shaken up in a way that it hasn't for, almost 100 years.
So the task of addressing water quality is also something that can feel overwhelming at the individual level, but you say that it's our responsibility as a community, and that's a community burden to take on. So what recommendations or advice do you have for those who want to play a bigger role in the larger community solving our soil and water health in the state?
I mean, everyone has an ability to impact it positively. I think sometimes we like to point the fingers at farmers and say, it's the fertilizers, the chemicals getting in our water system, and then we have to treat it. Absolutely. There is that going on for sure. But there's also spraying your lawn with excess nitrogen so it's extra green. It doesn't need to be that green. And unfortunately, sod does not have hardly any water infiltration. So whatever you're spraying on your yard, when we get those heavy rains, those are all ended up in the stormwater system. So you're creating the same problem, just on a much micro level. But it is a good comparison, because that's kind of the same issue that we're having in the agricultural side because our soil health is very poor and we're not having good water infiltration when we do get those rains. So that water is getting shunted off on the surface and then goes into our water systems. Same thing is happening in your lawns. But it is all our responsibilities. It's a resource. I was just in Utah the other week, and it just cracks me up whenever I go to the West when they talk about like how there's actually times of the year when it is illegal to have a rain barrel and collect water, because it is such a resource in those states that it needs to go to the reservoirs because that's where they pull their water from year round. They are not allowed to capture water. And here in Iowa, we're like, dang, it rained too much. Like, get it out of here. It's a problem. You know, tile everything. And I'm just like, no, we just need to better utilize the resource because it is a precious resource. Every year that we have a drought, everyone's always freaked out about it. So let's treat it as such. And it's everyone's responsibility because we all need it to live. No living organism can live without water. So treating it with the respect and understanding of the quality of it is just as important as how we manage it, I think is just a good start. And everyone has the ability to make an impact.
Yeah, for sure. So there's a tremendous generational shift happening right now in the ag sector. Tell us a bit about the sentiment of conservation around your peers, and what can you tell us about the next generation and conservation in ag?
It's really interesting. I love that question because I find it very interesting right now. A lot of because sometimes you get in your own little echo chamber and you're like, oh yeah, this seems to be the majority, but like you're kind of in your own echo chamber, so you don't always know. But I have friends all over the board in terms of people that are still farming the same way their dad did and their granddaddy, and they think cover crops are a scam, all the way over to like the most conservative hippie friends that like, you know, are drinking kombucha right now as we speak. Like I have friends all across that board. So it is really interesting to see just the different sentiment towards conservation. I would argue though, it is positively headed in the right direction. I have some friends that are starting to see that even if they want to do the traditional, conventional practices, they're recognizing that some things are not working, and they recognize that the agriculture system isn't as much of a free market maybe as what they have been told it was. So they're getting a little bit more creative and a little bit more curious about ways to solve some of these problems and other options that they have within the agricultural space. I just had a friend the other day message me. I was making fresh milled wheat bread, and he's like, where'd you get it from? I'm thinking about growing some. He was wanting to plant some. And I just love that thought process of like, oh, we can grow other things other than corn and beans. Oh, we can raise livestock differently than in a CAFO, a confinement, or certain other systems. Like there are other ways that other people are doing things right now in this state, and they're making it work. And some of those ways are positively impacting our resources. They're positively improving water quality and soil health, things like that. So I see it in a more positive shift. My friends that are really on the conservation train are rock stars. And I think some of those people are just going to be some of the leaders that we're going to see in these next few generations. They're just passionate. And some of them come from a conventional agriculture side. Some of them come from the same thing I did, where they're like, this is what it is, and I believe it. And then all of a sudden we just started asking questions and looking into things. And we're like, you know what? We got to do what's best for this state. If that's the bottom line and that's the goal, I want to do what's best for my family, my local community, my community at large, and then my state and my state's economy, I can recognize that we're in trouble. And so can they. But it's just having that conversation of, okay, what are solutions then? And what does that look like? But I see it moving in a more positive line.
Well, as we wrap up, you know, Hannah, Pat, what are some of your final thoughts? If there's one thing you want a listener to walk away with from our conversation today, what would that be?
Do you want me to go first?
Yes.
That you're a part of this. You are a big piece of the puzzle, whether you realize it or not. Your water use, what you learn about your water, what you learn about your soil, how you take care of whatever property or lack of property you have, wherever you are, whatever, you all drink water, you all eat food, you have a role to play, and it's important to really make an effort to do some education of yourself and to understand what's happening in both a big picture way and in a more immediate way as well. So I guess if I were to give a takeaway, you have a responsibility to yourself, to your family, to your fellow Iowans, to understand about conservation, and don't look at it as some kind of isolated, esoteric issue. It's something we can understand, even though it's complicated. We need to, and we need to work on it together.
So you talked a little bit about it previously about, how important education was, and that there were a few things you wished more people knew. Can you expand on that? Like, is there something that you wanted to tell our humongous audience about water quality, or you wanted someone to know? What would those things be? What would one or two of those things be?
So I think kind of the big, and this is maybe just a big picture look of what I would love the public to realize is that, and I kind of alluded to it a little bit, but realize that everybody plays a role in water quality. So there's, I feel like sometimes we get caught up in pointing fingers, saying it's their fault water quality is this way, or it's their fault water quality is this way. We've all played a role in having water quality be where it is right now. So whether the foods we choose to eat, the way we choose to live our lives, the fertilizer we put on our lawn, the way we farm, every single person, the decisions they make daily impact water quality. So I think realizing that is a huge first step. And so I think that's what I would like the public to realize, is that they all have influenced water quality in all of our different facets of life. I've even made decisions, of course, that influenced water quality, and maybe some of them weren't always the best. And so I think that that's an important first step. And then I think secondly is realizing that you can do things, you don't just have to sit and feel like scared, because it is a big issue. You can do things on your own property. So rainscaping.org is a really good website for private individuals. But I think, I installed the rain barrel. To me, that's a big win for me. And it's like you install a rain barrel and it catches your water off your roof and you water your plants with it. You're using less treated water from Des Moines Waterworks, of course. And then you're also improving water quality by catching some of that water and not allowing it to run off the landscape. So that to me is kind of a low-hanging fruit of something you can do. But there are other easy wins, right? Like planting a little prairie in your yard, or different things like that. So I think just realizing that, yes, we all played a role in water quality. It is what it is now. So maybe, let's stop arguing about it. Let's just now figure out, where do we go? What do we do? And there are a ton of things that we can do. Some of them are going to be a little harder than others. There are some that are a lot easier. But it's having that conversation, coming to the realization that we are where we are now. So let's figure out ways we can change it. Let's figure out ways we can move forward, and make it better for the next generation. And then I also think, one other thing I think I would like to relay to the public is water isn't scary. Get out there and play in it. So, it's like, you're not going to learn about water quality as much as you will if you can get out there and play in it. So go, if you have a creek in your backyard or you have a creek down the street, go play in it, go look at it, go feel it, touch it, let your kids play in it. And you're going to see the changes from water quality by being out there. So you're going to see the stream. Maybe there was a recent restoration out there and you're going to be able to see the animals start flocking to it, or the water quality be a little better after a rain. Maybe it won't be as dirty or muddy after a rain. So really just get out there and interact with it and realize it's not as scary as it may sound in the news. I think that's big.
Yeah, we live by a prairie and a stream, and we've lived there for about 10 years now. And I think to me, it's like we now can mark the seasons by what's blooming or not blooming in the prairie. You see, now we've been through flooding, droughts, and then a somewhat regular rain pattern. And you see the health year to year from that stream based on those and what's helping and what's not. So I agree that there's something so like grounding as well of being able to mark time and to observe the changes of the seasons and the weather pattern from a natural perspective and not just like off of the weather person on TV.
Right. I know. And it's honestly for like, mentally, it's amazing just to get out there, right? And like, we're, as humans, I firmly believe that we are meant to be in nature. Like that was, look back at our ancestral health, or the way our ancestors were. It's like they were immersed in nature. They were in tune with the seasons based on what they saw in nature. And then I look at my kids, I have two small young kids and they just want to be outside all the time. And I'm like, that is an innate desire from them to want to be outside. And so if I can foster that, if I can be like, yes, let's get outside all the time. There's a reason that their bodies want to be outside. And to be honest, they want to be around water. You know, like
Yes.
when they are throwing a tantrum or something, you know, my first instinct is, okay, let's get them in the tub, right? Let's get them in water.
Exactly.
I mean, for
I
real.
do the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's
Or I
like,
did.
or go
You're
take,
old.
well, right. Well, now you're like, go take a shower, right? Like, go take a shower,
Once you
calm
go
down.
outside, go for a walk and shower.
Right. And so it's like, I think that interaction with water and being in water is something that is innate in humans, and it's something we've lost, unfortunately, and it's because we've almost kind of removed our society from water by building dikes and, you know, next to streams, or really just kind of letting them overgrow, and so we can't even see the water. So I think mentally even, it's just such, when I go out there and I kayak in a river, right? Like, it's almost like you feel at home, you feel at peace. And I think it is that just innate nature in us that started when we were really little, and we just kind of have lost it throughout the way we live our lives. That can be huge, and that can really tie people back to water if we just keep getting people to water, interact with water, go see it.
Yeah, I think there was a study a few years ago that if you are in a hospital room that has a view to water, you had a better rate of recovery and a quicker rate of recovery than someone that did not. And so I think that just, you know, proves your point of it's innate that we need to be close to water.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about you, but I certainly learned a lot, not just from these conversations, but obviously throughout this entire season of the Happy Disruptors podcast. As I've mentioned, each of these experts has their own full-length episode, so we would encourage you to go back and listen and engage with that content. Share this episode or one of our other episodes with someone who might benefit from learning more about the intersection of conservation and agriculture. And then follow along with the work that the Great Outdoors Foundation is doing. Obviously, we're not the only organization working in the conservation and ag sphere, but we're really proud of the work we and our partners are doing. And the best way to stay up to date on that is following along on all social media platforms. Make sure to join us next week for our final installment of the Best of 2025. We'll see you then.